An unfortunate trend that has only grown larger in recent years is Hollywood execs coming in and audience testing a director's film until they have the perfect marketable product, often ruining a story's arc or uniqueness and producing just another generic popcorn flick. However, with fans of the cinema and film extras, some of these scenes left on the cutting room floor have been unearthed and in some cases even restored to the film for the appreciation of many fans. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 films with better alternate endings. Number 1, I Am Legend. There's so many films about a virus coming around and creating such havoc on humanity that it changes us. And this one is no different in that sense. Robert Neville, played by Will Smith, is a virologist and initially was coming up with a cure for cancer. Instead, it came with more risks than rewards, ultimately making the Darkseekers in this film, which are people who got infected by this virus. And Robert is now trying to find that cure, performing tons of experiments on them. The ending, though, it just really makes him more of a monster than he really is. Everything that's happening is because of him. And then he goes on to torture and kill all these Darkseekers with no remorse. And then he blows himself up, and a pack of them. When I first saw this film, as good as it is, I was highly disappointed with this ending, where he sacrifices himself to save the cure. But once I saw that alternate ending, it gave Robert's character some redeeming qualities. For one, he returns the alpha male's mate once he gets the connection between the two. And then he shows some remorse for everything that he did to his victims. Robert, Anna, and Ethan all drive up to Vermont, with Anna again narrating the ending with a hopeful message. So there's a lot of back and forth between the endings on which one is better. Honestly, majority speaks, and it's the alternate ending. Sure, Robert may seem like he's a victim to being isolated in Manhattan, but really he's not. And it takes a big person to realize their mistakes and correct them, which he does in the preferred ending, making him have one of the best turnarounds ever. However, if you would like to see the full film with alternate ending, you can head over to Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 2, the butterfly effect. This chaos theory states that one little change can cause drastic differences later on, and this film does a great job depicting that theory. Ashton Kutcher plays a 20-year-old college student named Evan, who's able to go back in time to change the way things are. Mostly, he goes back in time to try to make a better life for his love interest, Kaylee, played by Amy Smart, and her brother, Tommy, played by William Lee Scott. Each time he goes back, Evan is putting strain on his brain, which ultimately leads to Evan being in a psych ward. Then going back one last time to get Kaylee and Tommy to go live with their mother. Then sometime later, they both pass each other on the street and look, but don't interact and just continue on with their lives. So that's the original way this film ends. And now we have the director's cut, which is way different. Evan, while being in the psych ward, watches a home video of his mom giving birth to him, when he travels back to that point and ends the curse that is his life. During that scene, we hear how the psychic has told him that he never belonged in this life, how his mother had suffered 3 stillbirths prior to Evan, making him her 4th. But Kaylee and Tommy grow up in a happy, healthy environment and thrive. Now, I'm not saying the world would be better off without somebody, but this ending gave people more to talk about than the what ifs the original ending gave. But make sure to do yourself a favor and check this out, as well as the director's cut, over on Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 3, Terminator II. This was a huge toss-up for me on which one was better. We have the original ending that was just iconic in so many ways, as Sarah, played by Linda Hamilton, lowers the T-800 Terminator, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, into some molten steel, as John, played by Edward Furlong, begs for him to stay. Then you have the thumbs up from the Terminator as he is incinerated. Then the hopeful monologue Sarah gives as we watch the road go by, traveling the path of the unknown. It was good and left room for the remaining sequels to come into fruition. However, this special edition had Sarah sitting at a park, watching families and kids play, as she talks about what came after, how the war did not come, even makes a remark about being drunk on that day. Then a little girl runs up to her, asking her to tie her shoe. Sarah has become a grandma, and John is living his best life. The plot in this film was that a T-1000, played by Robert Patrick, was sent back in time to kill John as a child. But John from the future sent the T-800 to protect him. Eventually they get Sarah and save her from the T-1000, and they band together to destroy the CPUs and the Terminators. When I really sat and thought about it, I realized I preferred the alternate ending, considering all the trauma they have endured during their time with the Terminators, and how they were fighting to live. And once they won, they got a peaceful life. That's the way it should be. Sarah fought for so long, and then John got thrown into it, and his childhood was just horrible. So, if you're ready for some early 90s action, check this out on Paramount Plus, Roku, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 4, Army of Darkness. The Evil Dead series is just one that has to be experienced by all. We have cheesy one-liners, a lot of action, and unrealistic circumstances. In this one, we follow Ash as he was sent to the Middle Ages and gets captured by King Arthur's knights, where his weapons are confiscated, and Ash goes on to kill a Deadite, receiving praises from the wise men, and gets to go back to his time. In the theatrical ending, Ash is telling his story and then has to fight off a Deadite, and then when he wins, passionately kisses the girl. It's over the top and feels just displaced for some reason. Whereas in the original ending, Ash accidentally drinks 7 drops of the potion and sleeps longer than he intended, causing him to wake up in a post-apocalyptic London, screaming he slept too long and falls to the ground. This was replaced with the theatrical ending because studios thought the original ending was too depressing and negative. They wanted a more optimistic ending, which gave us the ending that was just lacking. Sure, if you alter the past, you're going to affect the future. But the way this one goes was just a bit over the top in action and served no real purpose to the series. With all that being said, you can check these out on Prime, Google Play, Fandango, or Apple TV. The full series is worth it. Number 5, The Descent. A group of women who are addicted to adrenaline decide to go on a caving adventure through the Appalachian Mountains, when one of them takes them to an uncharted cave to explore. After the cave collapses, they realize they're not alone, as the crawlers come to kill them. All throughout the film, Sarah has hallucinations of the car accident a year prior and of her dead daughter. Now here's where the ending comes into play, as there is the US version and the UK's. So in both endings, Sarah falls down a hole and lands in a cavern. In the US version, Sarah is able to crawl out of the cavern, get in her truck, and drive away. After driving for some time, she pulls over, crying, ends up vomiting after a logging truck scares her. When she comes back up to relax for a minute, she looks over and sees one of her dead friends sitting in the passenger seat. She screams and cuts to credits. Seems pretty dramatic, but over 1 minute of the film's ending was cut, mainly because a lot of viewers didn't like a finale that was so dark and hopeless. So, the extra 1 minute that us Americans did not get at first was after Sarah sees her dead friend, she wakes up back in the cave where she sees her daughter with the birthday cake, and as Sarah watches this, we pan out, hearing the shrieks of the crawlers, and we just see Sarah smiling at nothing. Sure, it's kind of gloomy and kind of depressing in a way, but faces some realities. For one, don't mess with anything in the Appalachians. Just not a smart idea. There's so much folklore and tales that make the whole area unnerving. But you also shouldn't be exploring caves anywhere that you don't know or are uncharted for situations like this. Nobody would be saved because 1, nobody knew where they really were, and 2, because of that, they're stuck. Either which way, this is a great film. So take a look over on Tubi, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 6, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. With a huge following of fans, this film definitely deserves the look, especially with how there are 2 totally different ways this could have ended. So Scott Pilgrim is a 22-year-old bass player dating a 17-year-old high schooler named Knives, when he meets Ramona and decides to break up with Knives to pursue Ramona, then having to defeat her 6 evil exes. And he does this, which is no surprise, honestly. So the ending we got was that Scott and Knives realize they're too different for each other, and she tells him to go after Ramona, which he does, and they go through the door to try again. Typical ending that just borders on boring. Sure, Ramona and Scott could have had great adventures. They both like that kind of thing. But really, Scott does have more in common with Knives. The alternate ending does end with Scott and Knives staying together and Ramona going off on her own adventure, and the couple ends up going to the arcade. It seems more fitting for how the whole story unravels, especially considering they don't have to fight off evil exes or go through all these challenges just to be together. Any relationship is difficult enough without outside obstacles, so going with the one that fits better just seems more romantic in a sense. But let me know your thoughts after you check this out over on Max, Hulu, Roku, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango.
Hey folks, sorry to interrupt, but we just launched our very own merch store at fatninja.shop. We sell everything from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more, so we would greatly appreciate it if you checked it out. All the proceeds go to our future projects, so it helps us make any kind of movies and short films that we want to make in the future. So if you got time, check out fatninja.shop. Thanks again, and back to the video.
Number 7, 1408. John Cusack plays Mike Enslin in this psychological horror, and it left me speechless. So we follow Mike, who is a writer that travels to different places to see if they're haunted or not. And being the skeptic that he is, he'll take on any challenge, even the ominous one for the Dolphin Hotel's room 1408. When he gets there, he has to get the hotel manager on board. And after he gets into the room, chaos ensues, and Mike has to figure out a way to either survive or destroy the room. In the theatrical ending, Mike survives, gets back together with his wife, and then listens to the recorder that has their deceased daughter's voice on it, shocking both of them. There is another alternate ending where his wife doesn't hear the voice, but everything else is the same. Another ending is where Mike dies, and Sam, Mike's publisher, returns to New York, where he receives the manuscript of Mike's last book, and just has this eerie vibe to it. But the best ending is when Mike also dies in the fire, but at the funeral, the hotel manager tries to give Mike's stuff to his wife and publisher, but they don't really want that. So the manager gets in his car when he sees a little girl wandering the cemetery, and then Mike's burnt body shows up in the back seat. Then the two of them walking away hand in hand. We switch scenes back to the hotel where we see Mike's apparition and him walking out of the room 1408 with such ease, showing that he has defeated the room and freed all the souls that were trapped. I really like that ending better because it's kind of bittersweet. Sure, he dies, but everybody that was trapped can now move on and be in peace. But make sure to take some time to check it out over on Starz, Hulu, Sling TV, Roku, Prime, Philo, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 8. Fatal Attraction. Affairs can have deadly consequences, and we see this perfectly in this film. We follow Dan, played by Michael Douglas, as he has a one-night stand with Alex, played by Glenn Close, while his wife Beth, played by Ann Archer, and his daughter are out of town. Alex then becomes obsessed with Dan, causing all kinds of problems. Alex goes as far as killing the daughter's rabbit, which is truly morbid. Then the ending we got was that after Beth returns from the hospital, Alex attacks her in the bathroom and Dan is able to overcome her. Then as she springs up from the bathwater, Beth shoots her. And then they tell their story to the police, panning out to see a picture of the family. This was more viewer friendly and does get a lot of praises. However, the alternate ending is kind of more of a victory. Alex ended up cutting her own throat, framing Dan for murder. But Beth finds a tape revealing Alex's plan, and she goes to the police, freeing Dan. I feel like that ending fit the vibe more with the whole film versus what we actually got. Alex was going to do anything to make sure she either died or got Dan. But don't forget to take time to check this out over on Pluto, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Roku, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 9. Die Hard with a Vengeance. We all know the Die Hard films. I mean, they're great. In this one, we follow McClane, played by Bruce Willis, as he has to take part in a game of Simon Says to prevent bombs going off all around the city, even pairing up with an unlikely friend of sorts, Zeus, played by Samuel L. Jackson. The two work well together, giving their constant back and forth, but Zeus is the kind of person McClane needs in his life. After McClane beats Simon's game, he realizes he knows where to find Simon, played by Jeremy Irons. At a warehouse on the U.S.-Canadian border, most of Simon's men are arrested when Simon and his girlfriend try to get away when McClane shoots a power line, causing it to attach to the helicopter, making it crash, killing all inside. Then Zeus tells McClane to call his wife while they are celebrating the victory. Total Die Hard ending, and isn't bad. The good guys win after all. However, the alternate ending takes a darker tone, where Simon and his girlfriend get away, a boat blows up a dam, and then McClane is fired, gets divorced, and finds Simon in Hungary. He then challenges Simon to a new game, kind of like Russian roulette, but with a rocket launcher. McClane literally took out all his frustration and problems on Simon, and does die in the end, but McClane is now in another country, full of vengeance and rage. Seems a little more realistic ending to the film, but viewers didn't initially like it, claiming it corrupted McClane's character. Either way, it's still great and definitely worth a rewatch. So head over to Tubi, Hulu, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango to check it out. Number 10, Paranormal Activity. Taking on this new perspective of films, this one really did get audiences scared the first time they saw it. It only has two characters, Katie and Mika, who just moved into a new house. When Katie says that there's something evil there, they end up investigating and setting up a camera in their bedroom where little things are heard and seen at first, and then amp up over time. Unable to get any help, they try contacting the demon through a Ouija board, which randomly catches fire. Then they're finding animal-like footprints leading to the attic. And after a while, Mika's body is thrown from outside the camera view across the room. When Katie enters and crawls to his body, then over to the camera with a demonic-like smirk, lunges at the camera, and it suddenly goes black. That's when we get the message that Mika was found dead and Katie is now missing. This one left so much room for her to show up in Paranormal Activity 2. But really, I don't think she would stay in that state forever. But I'm not sure how that would work. You should be able to have moments of at least knowledge of the real world. But anyway, the alternate ending is when Katie comes back to the room holding a knife. As she sits on the floor, time flies by. When a friend calls, gets no answer or a call back, the friend then comes over, finding Mika's dead body. She flees the residence, and then two police officers show up, finding Katie. That's when the attic door slams shut and the freaked out cops shoot and kill her, while other cops are searching the house. Then the screen goes black, leaving us with the message that the film is dedicated to the two. Given the differences between the two, the alternate ending is better, making sure that nobody who lived with Katie survives. She was the one haunted after all. It just works and doesn't leave a whole lot of guessing room for what happened to her. It's more of a finality than where did she go. But anyway, you can check out both versions over on Max, Hulu, Prime, Fandango, Apple TV, or Google Play. You won't regret it. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.